There's no place to escape to.
This is the last podcast.
On the left. That's when the cannibalism started.
What was that?
That were then these hostages for the cult got their eyes plucked out, they got a bandage wrapped around their head, and then they all had to fuck the sow woman and come. The whole thing was just like, will you not open your mind to me? Which meant, will you come inside this woman with a goat's head placed on top of her head, and then she leaned over some railing and a fucking baby fell out of her guts, and then this weird wispy-headed woman came and picked it up when and it's like licking its face. I was sitting there last night and I turned it off and watched Mr. Robot.
All right, welcome to the last podcast on the left, everyone. I hope you're keeping all of that in, Marcus.
Yeah.
Henry regaling us with the movie that he watched alone.
Baskin, the story of how ice cream can really fuck you up.
Is that what it's about?
No, I wish. It was a Turkish horror movie that is about a bunch of police officers stumbling into a hell realm, not unlike Event Horizon.
Okay.
Very cool.
It's cool. It's awesome. It's great for when your girlfriend leaves town.
Yeah.
Because you just got to drink a bunch of scotch and watch it alone.
Oh, that's exciting. All right, I'm Ben Kissel. This is the last podcast on the left. That's Marcus Parks.
Hello.
We have, I guess, lonely Henry Zabrowski, or what are you doing with your life right now?
Stag party, Henry Zabrowski.
No, it wasn't a stag party.
That's what I do. That is what a happily coupled man stag party is. I watch all the things that are too intense for my girlfriend to watch when I'm alone.
It sounds like you watched a Turkish snuff film.
Yes.
It's
very similar, but it had a real guy with the deformity in it. That's cool. That's open. They're really celebrating diversity over in Turkey.
Yeah.
Except for women have to walk behind the men, and most of them lose their virginity to prostitutes.
The men, that is.
Yes.
Yes.
And they fuck chickens. They fuck a lot of chickens. I don't know if that's always true for Turkish people. And also, maybe I don't know how good it is because I've never tried it.
What's the story with chicken pussy? I don't know.
It just seems like a bunch of claws scratching my inner thighs while I got a dirt-covered, screaming bird kind of lurching up and down on my cock. Doesn't really make me want to shoot ropes. Kissel, how do you feel?
I don't know. I mean,
take.
Every creature has its purpose, and God gave them to us to use.
So you think a chicken's purpose is to be come inside and then slaughtered
I
and
did
eaten?
not say that. Cows are meant to be eaten. That's all I am saying. You can infer what you will.
I think cows are meant to be tipped. They wouldn't stand so stiff. It's so stiff.
Oh, my God. That brings me back to some good Wisconsin cow tipping memories. Oh, my God. Okay, so today we're covering a cult.
Yeah, we're coming back to cults.
And remind everyone, I do want to remind people, I have a Wisconsin tongue, so this will be difficult. The name of the cult, Shinrikyo.
Wow.
Did I do it okay?
You shit.
No, but you were close.
In Shrinkyo.
Shinrikyo.
Shinrikyo. Aum Shinrikyo.
Okay.
Now, what we're trying to do here is a new approach to big hitters. I feel like a lot of the times we're going to always go back and do your classic serial killer, but this is a time to really cover an entity that's killed a lot of people. Aum Shinrikyo is a group that was a terrorist group in the very end, in the very beginning, being a totally awesome, cool, fucking anime-based cult, and I would have joined.
An anime-based cult.
Yes.
And now, Marcus, just really quick, in context, Waco, Texas, David Koresh, they have nothing on this guy.
Absolutely nothing. I mean, because Waco was, comparatively a fucking kindergarten.
Yeah.
You know, like, it was
Waco, they had
nothing.
some guns, but they were trying to protect themselves, and they were just losers. They were a bunch of Texas boondoggle losers. I'm sorry,
Oh, leave them alone.
But this is a nefarious group, and it had a gigantic corporate structure. It was by the end, it was worth almost $1 billion.
Wow.
Yeah. The Aum Shinrikyo death cult, otherwise known as Aum Supreme Truth.
Woo. Good. That's a fucking cool ass name.
Yeah.
He's good. You could say what you want about Asahara, but he's very good with names.
Absolutely. They actually still operate to this day. although its salad days were a span of 10 years from the mid-'80s to the mid-'90s.
And that's not the funky Greek salad days. Those are the very refreshing side house salad days.
Yeah. They were led by the charismatic and chubby Shoko Asahara. The cult's apocalyptic visions came to fruition in 1995 with a deadly sarin gas attack on the Tokyo subway system, killing 11 and sickening over 5,000.
It's really interesting how you can really see the apocalyptic visions come to light when you make them happen.
Right.
Using billions of dollars and manufacturing your own chemical warfare agents.
It is something that you can just kind of bring on yourself, huh?
It's like how I want to, I have a dream of learning to play the guitar. You know what I mean? Hey, I got fingers. I should put them to the strings.
Yeah,
At the same
absolutely.
time, what I've been doing is I pay a little boy to play the guitar, and then I just pipe that over me playing it on video.
Do you pay him, though?
Oh, yes. Oh, I'm a job creator.
That's good.
Now, although that death toll, 11 killed, 5,000 injured, that seems high, but the attack fell far short of what they hoped to accomplish. If they would have been successful, the death toll would have dwarfed that of the 9/11 attacks. Wouldn't even have come close.
Well, I mean, it's kind of interesting. It's almost like, when an election goes into, like next day, you have to wait for the results. There was 5,000 sick people.
Yeah.
I mean, they were crossing their fingers, being like, if 2,000 die, we got ourselves a hell of a death.
Boom.
Any
Bada
death?
bing, bada boom. And he keeps saying stuff like that. We got this, we got that. Oh, and we're talking about and then
I'm sorry to report, sir, they're getting better. They're getting better.
We're going to learn that this is the end result of a Byzantine plan that Asahara had to possibly spring World War III and make the U.S. government attack Japan.
Well, that always turns out great for Japan.
Yeah, exactly.
It's extremely convoluted. But what follows here is one of the most bizarre and bumbling cults that we have ever covered. Let's start with the early life of the great guru himself, the leader, Shoko Asahara, or as he was originally known, Chizuo Matsumoto.
Now, is it Chizuo or is it Chizuo? Chizuo. I am also not going to do an Asian accent.
You aren't?
I am not going to do an Asian accent this entire series.
No, you have to do an Asian accent.
Well, maybe I don't have to.
This is one of the times you can do it.
Maybe I don't have to can do it. We'll see what will come out of my mouth.
All right.
Now, Chizuo was born in 1955, the fourth son of a weaver who spent his days manufacturing tatami, the straw mats that are traditionally used as flooring in Japanese homes.
They sound uncomfortable.
They sound extremely uncomfortable, like most things Japanese. And Chizuo grew up dirt poor in a dirt floor shack with the family subsisting mostly on sweet potatoes.
Like most of East Los Angeles.
Now, Chizuo was born blind in his left eye and was only partially sighted in his right. He was indeed bullied by neighborhood street toughs as a child, but when he was sent to a state school for the blind as a teenager, the tables were turned.
Because his parents got a discount. It's the truth. You get a check from the government if you send your blind to the blind school. Because the Japanese blind schools, it's like, they're teaching them to like fade into shadows and shit like that. It's all like, what's his name? Stick.
Yeah, from Daredevil.
Yeah, Stick is doing all of the teaching over there. So it's all stuff about not disturbing the bells. It's very intense schooling over there, but the truth is that he was kind of lumped in with his truly blind brother.
So he was the living embodiment of in the land, the man with the one eye in the land of the blind is king.
Yeah.
In the land of the skunks, the man with half a nose is king.
That movie. Dirty work. Great movie.
Yeah, since Chizuo could kind of sort of see, he had a huge advantage over his classmates. They pretty much became his servants. He would make them go out and buy his noodles and his cakes every day, and he'd never pay them.
Chizuo was a bastard. And this is what we're going to learn later on, too. He is probably the world's largest dickhead that ever was. He's if Charles Ng went Super Saiyan. To be totally Asian about it.
I do like that he's on the noodle and cake diet, very similar to Jared Fogel's prison diet, which is kind of nice.
He would also play this game in blind school called pro wrestling, where he would take 2 blind kids and teach them how to do wrestling moves. And if he felt they weren't doing them hard enough, he would stop them and show them himself. And that is true. And he used to come in and literally be like, most important deathlock you are doing, young sapien. Oh, I see that you are not doing it with enough veracity. I will show you how to do it with most mercilessness.
Right, and one of those students grew up to be Haku from the WWF.
No, Chizuo, he could not have been given a better education on how to scam people. The upper hand that he gained from having just a little bit of sight enabled him to hone his bullying and manipulating skills in ways that he couldn't have done anywhere else.
What he would do is he would offer his services as a seeing eye boy. And this is the truth, is that he would go and he would say, do you want to go to the barber? And they go, oh, yes, very much so, Chizuo. And he says, oh, then one can only trust the way I lead by shoulder, hand to shoulder, young sapien. And he says, oh, thank you, young master Chizuo. And they go and he would lead them out to the street and then he would drop them off to his haircut and then he would get his traditional Japanese bowl cut because you had to get it or you were flogged by a police officer in the street. And then he'd come out of the barbershop and literally be like, Chizuo would like wait on the curb and be like, how does young sapien get home, I wonder? Chizuo wonders aloud and says it to young sapien. And he says, oh, I thought that was kind of a part of the deal, that you were going to take me home when I was done with my barbershop quartet. The guy's bowl was very accurate today. I can feel it with my hands. He's like, oh, young sad sapien, it is quite slanted, your bangs today. But no, you must pay me money for me to lead you back. And that's what he would do again and again. And he
it seems like he's actually offering quite a service. I think he deserves some money.
Hey, he deserves some money, but he tricked him into it.
Yes.
He didn't tell them that they needed to pay him.
Well, then they could just be blind and stand on the street. I mean, I like this guy. He's an entrepreneur.
This is the most true Fox News interpretation you've had of a story.
It really
so far.
is. The freer the market, the freer the people, huh?
In the land of the blind, the man with one eye is the entrepreneur.
No, I mean, this man really is he is a success story. He is one hell of an entrepreneur.
Well, he grew up saying he wanted to be prime minister.
Yeah. He had a career in politics, or at least he had his sights set on a career in politics first. He was also very, very good at math.
Yes, and then in school, what he would do is that he would give candies and sweets, and he would run for class president every year, and he'd never win. And he went up to his teacher, and he said, "You have been telling students falsehoods about me and smearing my name." And she's like, "No, everyone's voting you for class president because everyone is afraid of you."
Yeah.
And that's the truth.
Yeah, they were absolutely terrified of him. And his math skills combined with his con artistry, when he graduated high school, he had $30,000 of cash in his pocket.
It's very impressive.
I came to New York with $750.
Yep.
Now, within a few years of graduating high school, Chizuo had moved to Tokyo and soon after married a homely but rich woman named Tomoko and eventually fathered 6 children with her over the years. And using his wife's money, Chizuo opened the Matsumoro Acupuncture Clinic and began a long career of bizarre and, most importantly, expensive treatments and cures.
My question so now he's in the normal world, let's say.
Well, he's in Tokyo.
He's in Tokyo, but he's not surrounded by
world.
blind people.
Yeah.
Who's going to get acupuncture done by a guy who can kind of see out of one eye? Isn't there a bunch of needles involved with that?
It seems like you didn't Yelp enough.
Yeah.
But actually, the truth is that in Japan, the blind do a lot of these jobs. The blind a lot of times work in the massage and acupuncture industry because they do it by feel. It's sort of sensual. Yeah. In a way. I would kind of, can you imagine though, it's kind of sexy to be with like a blind Japanese woman who's just like, oh, where'd you stick pin, young kisser? Are these 2 anacondas? Oh no, these are your...
You made it 13 minutes.
God damn it.
Not bad. No, I like this. I was getting into the fantasy. Marcus, why did you ruin my fantasy? My eyes were closed. I forgot it was Henry.
You weren't even thinking about it, were you?
No.
But no, what were you going to do with my anaconda?
The fantasy has been broken. I'm sorry,
Marcus.
Kissel. Did I become a slender young Japanese woman to you for a second?
No, you weren't slender, but you were young.
No, the first bogus, bizarre, expensive medicine that Chizuo created was called Almighty Medicine, which was simply tangerine peel in an alcohol solution. But his con artist skills were more than on point, for he was able to convince people to pay for orange peel in alcohol $7,000 for a 3-month treatment.
See, now we call that mixology in the Lower East Side.
Right.
But just the money would not be enough for Chizuo. For in 1984, Chizuo would found the organization that would eventually evolve into his death cult, the Aum Association of Mountain Wizards.
The Aum Association of Mountain Wizards.
It's cool as fuck.
I don't know if it's cool as fuck, Henry. I think by definition, it's nerdy as shit.
It's like the best prog rock name of all time. That is what you want your prog band to be called. But technically, it is just a conference room full of stinky bearded Japanese men.
I'm fairly certain if you just went up to a Japanese person and called them a mountain wizard, that would be a racial insult. I just feel like mountain wizard, it has some weight to it.
Thank you, Mr. Kissel. Most honorable title you have bestowed unto me. Thank you, thank you, thank you.
That was my intention.
I dip my head in honorable mention to you, oh, giant of Mount Fuji.
Very nice.
Now, Chizuo's first move was to take out ads in Japan's Twilight Zone magazine, extolling the psychic powers one could attain by joining the Aum Association of Mountain Wizards.
No, this is not Rod Serling Twilight Zone. This is Golden Earring Twilight Zone.
Yeah. Chizuo claimed that he himself was blessed with the powers of perceiving past lives, reading minds, passing through walls, meditating for hours underwater, and of course, his ace in the hole, levitation.
This was his bit.
Yeah.
I could see him doing the passing through walls thing if he just constantly tries to find the door by walking into walls, going right, and then finally he makes it through the door, walks right through. He's like, I walk through the wall.
Technically, he's blind. He doesn't know.
He doesn't know.
He doesn't really know. But problem is also he's blind, so people are like, bless his heart.
Bless him.
Every time he can be like us. They are just as strong as we are.
Every time he walks through a door, I just walk through the wall.
Well, that is just, he lives, it's like his whole life is a fairy tale.
Now, eventually, Twilight Zone magazine did a full spread on the fledgling mountain wizard, which showed a photo in which Chizuo appeared to levitate a few inches off of the ground. And how Chizuo managed this is actually almost as impressive as actually levitating. Using an expert yoga technique, Chizuo was able to use his thigh muscles to propel himself from the ground high enough for the photographer to take a convincing picture.
Right.
No.
That's what he did.
No, he just had strong legs. He had strong legs. He could flip himself up in the air, and they took a really quick flash shot to catch him midair, like what they used to do to prove Larry Bird could jump.
Yeah, he couldn't really do. No, but this was the 80s, right?
Yeah.
The cameras were slow.
No.
It took like 2 seconds to get a good shot.
No, it is not the 1920s.
Yes, it did.
No, it's not a long exposure 1920s
Yes, it
like when
was.
you move and it blurs.
It's not a crank
I
operated.
don't remember the 80s.
You know nothing about photography.
You know what, though? I didn't expect him to, and that's not on you.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
No, this levitation picture worked like a charm. Soon, the studio apartment where the Mountain Wizards began could no longer handle the volume of students coming to learn from the master, and separate branches began to open up in major cities all over the country.
This is where he will get his first kind of validation.
His first taste.
Yeah, that if we can use the media to present ourselves, he became very savvy at marketing.
Yeah, he's sort of the Lucille Roberts.
I don't know who Lucille Roberts is.
Lucille
One of the most
Roberts.
successful gym companies of all time.
It's like it's the gym where women are least groped at.
Yes.
And so it's very popular.
That's why they go.
But it's Lucille Roberts, like a half-blind, huge woman sitting in the back room being like,
Yes.
maybe we should provide spin classes every 2 hours.
Yes.
So that both people without jobs and with day-to-day jobs can enjoy spin class.
That's why she's the best. The best gyms in the city.
Yes, Master Lucille.
Now, at first, Chizuo was a fairly affable guru, soft-spoken, as David Kaplan says in his book, The Cult at the End of the World, of which much of the research on this series is taken from. Chizuo knew just as much about mystic forces as he did about baseball.
Now, did he know a lot about baseball?
He knew a shit ton about like he was the cool guy in the neighborhood.
He's blind.
It's a different
It just
neighborhood.
sounds like
You listen to the radio.
Well, baseball, in your head, it sounds like a... oh, whoa. And he's going around in the bases, and he's just sitting there like, what are bases? Are bases turtles that they allowed to stand still? And the same woman's just being like, your life is just poetry in motion.
It is.
Yes, it is turtles if that's what your imagination wants them to be.
Should be.
See, the most important thing to remember about Chizuo's followers, most of his students were being directed to the Aum Association of Mountain Wizards from one place, Twilight Zone magazine. Put simply, nerds.
Yep.
Absolute and total nerds. And it was here that Chizuo realized who the bread and butter of his cult would be. And although he would eventually attract some of the most brilliant scientific minds in Japan, he essentially started off with extremely lonely otakus.
Now, what does otakus mean?
An otaku is somebody who pretty much lives in an inner world. It pretty much started off as a term for like computer nerds who really lived in the computer world, but it's kind of expanded to somebody who pretty much lives in their entertainment.
And that's
So, seriously, is it autism? Is that what that means? I mean, I'm not even making a joke. Are they like a type? Or is it a type of autism?
It's a very Japanese thing. It's a very Japanese term because in Japan, you've got to realize, like, Japan is one of the most crowded nations on the planet. They've got 4 times the population of California living in an area of the exact same size. Tokyo is, I guess you could call it like a megapolis.
It's Tokyo's like New York on top of New York.
Exactly. And so people in Japan, especially in the cities, they very much value what they call their inner space.
And
they
their
value
private time.
Yeah, their private time. They're actually like they value their home, and some Japanese people go even further into it, and they just live inside this fantasy world even more so than some people can here in America.
They also
it's a
seem
word.
much-
They have a word for it, otaku.
They're also very much more, they're dedicated. And they're strong, and they work hard, and they're a little bit more obsessive. And the people that he, but also specifically the people he got into the beginnings of this cult. And it's also true, which he's going to use more later on, is that he's going to put the sexy chicks up forward. He had one woman named Hisako Ishii that became sort of the prototype of all of the women that would be in Aum Shinrikyo later on. And she was a very hot woman that was a devotee to him that started in this first cult, in the Mountain Wizards cult. She would show up and do all the tax work for him.
I see.
And so so a lot of these nerds saw a hot chick out front, and they're literally like, oh, I go in there, and then I can make the pushy with my stinky, anytime I like, because she gets me.
I see.
And that was unfortunate because later on, they were not allowed to come anymore.
Oh.
Yeah, I mean, these were anime nerds, manga nerds, computer nerds. You know, one observer described it as, quote, a world that combined primeval fear with a computer-controlled version of reality. Virtual reality made real. But it wouldn't be long before this collection of dorks and dweebs looking to escape the drudgery of modern life in Japan would turn into something very, very different. Now, while meditating on a beach on Japan's Pacific coast, Chizuo received a message from God saying,
I have chosen you to lead God's army, Chizuo.
And later that year, a man he met in the mountains told him,
Armageddon will come at the end of this century. Only a merciful, godly race will survive. The leader of this race will emerge in Japan.
and that is when a big fucking light bulb went off in Chizuo's head. When he returned from the mountains, he changed his name from boring old Chizuo Matsumoto to the much more impressive sounding Shoko Asahara, and he officially declared himself as the leader that will emerge in Japan and lead the new godly race through the other side of Armageddon.
This is why I don't let my friends change their names.
No.
Never.
I'll never buy it.
Never.
It's like, you'll always be Ben Kissel to me. I don't care when you go as
No, I want to be Harry
Sahara.
Shearer.
Oh, I think you're going to go as Harry Shearer?
Yeah, I want to be
Take it.
Harry.
That's taken.
There's a person named Harry Shearer.
Yeah.
Quite famous.
Yes. When I was talking about, so when he went up on that mountain trip, he showed up, he was just like, I'm going to learn how to do, because at this time too, Shoko was kind of bouncing around in Tokyo. Before he had, as he had started the beginnings of the new cult, he had tried to become a lawyer for a while because his idea was still to become prime minister, but he sucked at anything that was normal.
Yeah.
And then his acupuncture school, when he was at that first school that he was at when he was doing the Matsumoto Acupuncture Academy, got sued because people realized that he was bilking them, and he lost $7,000 in some big fucking to-do, and it bankrupted him.
Yeah, because they found out that he was just rubbing a pineapple on their backs.
Pretty much. And he didn't even know it was a pineapple.
No, he didn't. He thought it was a needle.
Yeah. And so he took this retreat up this mountain at the beginning of the Mountain Wizards cult and kind of went up, and then 2 days ahead of schedule before it was over, he comes bouncing down the mountain being like, I've become enlightened. And all of the gurus that are there are being like, no, I don't think you have been, but I mean, we can't tell you not because inherently we're groovy.
Yeah.
But I don't think you're enlightened.
No, absolutely not. And this is when guru mode goes into full effect. And from now on, we will be referring to him as Shoko Asahara. And Asahara, he cultivated a heavy beard, became a heavy man.
I like the way you write cultivated. He didn't shave.
No, you got
cultivated.
You can cultivate a beard.
His was not cultivated.
You can totally cultivate a beard.
His was not
right.
Park Slope
Every time
beard balm like cultivated.
Every
beard.
time I'm drunk for a week, I'll just be like, no, Marcus, I was cultivating a beard.
Sounds like you're cultivating a drinking problem.
It could be that too.
He also became a very heavy man and started wearing the ivory white robes of a holy man. Soon after, he also changed the name of the organization from the Aum Association of Mountain Wizards to the much simpler Aum Shinrikyo, or Aum Supreme Truth, as it translates to in English. And he went full religious with it. But those who stayed were all in, and the true madness was just beginning. Now, to truly understand how the Aum Shinrikyo cult was able to dupe so many people, you've got to understand religion in Japan in the 20th century.
What we're looking at in the 1980s in Japan, it was very similar to the 1960s in America, and also the 1920s in America, where we had gigantic spiritual movements. This was the very peak of one of these waves.
Yeah, well, it kind of started like by the 1930s, like Buddhism and Shintoism, which for hundreds of years had been Japan's main religion, they had been all but stamped out and replaced by state Shinto, in which the Emperor of Japan was worshipped as a living deity.
But after we spanked their pants off with the two of our big rippling, big knuckly knuckles.
Twice. Nagasaki, Hiroshima. We fucking dropped those bombs in 1945.
Woo, go Truman! I think it's horrible what we did,
It's
and
bad.
it had
We
the
should not
ripples
have-
of
no,
that
it's-
has affected us from then on.
Yes.
No, you could
folks.
argue it ended the war quicker and saved thousands of lives.
Absolutely not. The Russians, they were about to surrender. The Russians
The
were
Russians
coming in
weren't going to
from the north.
surrender.
No, not the Russians. The Russians were going to conquer the Japanese. The Russians were coming in.
Yeah,
from
but
the
then
we
we're
north.
gonna
got
have to-
Russia and
yeah, we got
Japan.
Russia fucking with our sushi.
The whole world's off kilter.
Yeah, we got bear in our sushi.
Contain the Russian. Contain the Red Scare.
That's why we dropped the bomb.
Thank God.
Ugh. So the emperor, after the bombs were dropped, he surrendered both the country and his godhood, which kind of left Japan in a kind of like spiritual lurch.
It's kind of crazy that you can retire your godhood.
Yeah. He actually did have to come out and say on the radio, I am not a god. So the 1970s ushered in what David Kaplan referred to as Japan's spiritual rush hour. And with Japan being the world's second largest economy at the time, hundreds of new religious groups set up shop to take advantage of all of this disposable income, and none more so than Aum Shinrikyo. Aum Shinrikyo's basic business model was actually modeled after an existing Buddhist cult named Agun Shu, who recruited followers from magazine ads and used a cable TV station to beam out, quote, healing psychic power.
Asahara took everything that he knew from beginning guru lessons from the leader of that group. He was a part of that group. And he was in there and he was just like, oh, I can do this. I can flip this. He literally was just like, oh, this guy's not doing it wrong. He needs pizzazz. I got pizzazz because I only got one eye. And it's true because it's a great marketing technique as a guru to be blind.
Yeah.
So it was sort of like the tech boom in a way. And he's the Google.
Actually,
he's the one who lived.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, there was a spiritual boom. And he was the one that survived throughout. But even more important than the, I guess, psychic powers and the cable TV ads, the most important thing that he really learned was Agonshu's insistence that all cult members cut ties with their families completely. Perhaps the most essential technique in the cultist handbook, because it insulates followers and it narrows their worldview to the point where the church is their entire world.
It's a term called ideological totalism. This is from a book that I read. This is also detail heavy but very, very interesting. It's an academic book called Destroying the World to Save It by Robert J. Lifton. It's about Aum Shinrikyo.
Thank you, Midtown Scholar, for sending so many amazing books on this subject.
It's incredible, and this book is really, really good. But this he breaks down the idea of the totalistic community, and the most basic tenet is this tenet, which is called milieu control or milieu control. Milieu control, in which all communication, including even individuals' inner communication, is monopolized and orchestrated so that reality becomes the group's exclusive possession.
Yeah.
So the idea is that you literally can control their outside world by keeping them in a place. You take them physically away from their families. You feed them only a certain amount of food. You let them sleep on only a certain amount of hours per night. And then what that does is break down your own inner dialogue then as well.
Yeah.
I mean, the micro is an abusive relationship, right? Where the guy cuts off all the relationships with the woman's family, and then but we have something together that's just us. And of course, it becomes very toxic very quick.
Absolutely. And it also allows the cult leaders to create a new normal for these people. So if they have this worldview narrowed down to a pinpoint, then eventually the cult leaders can convince them that anything that they say is normal. It's like, yes, this is the life. This is our life. This is how it is. Now, as far as the actual religion itself goes, Aum Shinrikyo was a lot like a lot of the New Age religions that's flowed around over the years, Buddhist, yoga, meditation, etc. But Aum Shinrikyo had a twist. At the center of it all was Shiva the Destroyer, the Hindu god who in certain interpretations is responsible for the death of all things. And you add to that the Judeo-Christian concept of the end of days that Asahara picked up from a cursory reading of Revelations, and you've got what the Japanese call Harumageddon.
Yeah!
Ooh, that's awesome.
And he will use this as the leitmotif of the entire cult, like Charles Manson did with the race war, and Jim Jones did with the government's going to shut down our perfect society. He is using the Harumageddon as the storyline of the entire Aum Shinrikyo cult, and we're going to see how he wrote the ending himself.
Yeah. Now, Asahara's apocalyptic predictions began in 1987, based on what he said was astral vision and intuitive wisdom, which he combined with a healthy dollop of Nostradamus prophecies.
He was obsessed with Nostradamus.
Yeah, because Nostradamus had just been translated into Japanese in the 1970s.
Yes, which is also very interesting because it's another connection to Jim Jones. Jim Jones was also obsessed with Nostradamus. And he was looking at Nostradamus. He saw the passage that said after the big destruction, quote unquote, that the next leader was going to come from the east. And as soon as he saw that passage, he's like, I'm going to use this as my high school English paper reasoning as to why I am the guru. I am the savior from the east.
Nostradamus. Let's go with Amadeus.
Now, Asahara predicted that nuclear war was going to break out somewhere between 1999 and 2003. And the only way to stop it was to insert a Buddha into every nation on Earth.
Oh, that's so generous. So he's going to have a different Buddha in each country. That's incredible.
Well, he's going to have a different Buddha in each country, but he's the biggest Buddha.
Oh, he's the guy. It's him. It's all him.
No, there are Buddhas. Think of it as Buddha franchises.
Oh, like Santa Claus in the mall.
Like Lucille Roberts.
So if before 1999, if every country had a Buddha with Asahara serving as the central Buddha ruling from Japan, World War III could be averted and Asahara a guarantee.
And that's an Asahara guarantee.
Oh, wow.
And he was actually quoted as saying that. He's like, World War III will be averted. I guarantee it.
That's what he said. He said, I will base my religious future on this prophecy.
Like the dudes from Men's Warehouse?
Yes.
You're going to love the revolution. I guarantee it.
You're going to like how the seals are open. I guarantee it.
And this would be the first of many apocalypse solutions that Asahara would put forth over the years. Now, the apocalypse, that would be the through line of everything, but the details would change depending on...
that's where he got real Robin Williams with it. Where he was just blowing it out. But you would just throw whatever worked. It was like Charles Manson.
Yeah.
At the end, you're losing them. I got to toss new shit in here. I got to keep it fresh.
Now, as far as credentials went, Asahara claimed to have the personal blessing of the Dalai Lama. And amazingly, he did actually meet with the Dalai Lama, which apparently was not that hard to do in 1987. You could just show up. But the Lama said that Asahara was much more interested in how to structure a religious organization than he was in reaching enlightenment. And in the words of one monk who remembered a visit from Aum Shinrikyo, Asahara and his followers were, quote, very unpopular.
Which is very difficult in the Buddhist world because I thought Buddhists inherently don't care about anything.
Yeah.
But what's also interesting is that he would do this throughout the history of Aum Shinrikyo, where he would show up with world religious leaders and world leaders and just get a picture taken with them.
Yeah,
and then he would pop it out and then have followers write articles about these leaders telling him how proud they were of his service to the world.
I have a totally different picture of this guy now. We see these people all around the entertainment industry.
Legitimately.
If you ever go on somebody's Facebook or Twitter or Instagram and it's just them with pictures of celebrities, they don't know those celebrities.
They do not know them.
They just get the picture and the celebrity's like, thank God that creepy creeper is gone.
Yeah.
And then they boast about how they knew all these people.
Yeah, it's very creepy and just a little sad. And Aum Shinrikyo and Asahara, he was totally of that ilk.
And it worked. You know why? Because, again, he's dealing with nerds.
Yeah.
And so they see these pictures of him with the Dalai Lama, and they're like, man, he's pretty cool, isn't he?
Right.
They don't know.
Now, after that trip to see the Dalai Lama, Asahara wrote and released the first of many books, The Secrets of Developing Your Supernatural Powers. And in a hook that would catch many a gullible fish, an ad for the book said, spiritual training that doesn't lead to supernatural powers is hogwash.
That is very strong language for a publication.
My
And
goodness.
the book did promise plenty of supernatural powers.
How to read the future. Read people's minds. Develop X-ray vision. Levitate. Take trips to the fourth dimension. Hear the voice of God. And more. But you can imagine all this instead of them as being suggestions that they're orders.
Yeah.
Read people's minds. Develop X-ray vision. Which just sounds like Asahara's father.
Now, as people started showing up, so did the money. After he started releasing his book, that's when shit really starts blowing up for him. And Asahara started off comparatively cheap compared to the money he would eventually make, charging just $350 a pop for psychic sessions that promised not only miracle recoveries from injuries, but also a 90% win rate on all future mahjong games.
Man, he would have made a killing in Boca Raton.
90% win rate.
90% win rate.
Yeah, that's great.
Today's episode of The Last Podcast on the Left is brought to you by Harry's.com, the best place on the internet to get high-quality shaving supplies at low, low prices. I actually use Harry's shaving supplies. I've used their razors for quite a while now. They are of top-notch, 5 razor blades on these things, and they do smooth skin, such as myself, a lot of favors. And of course, why would you pay $32 for an 8-pack of blades when you can get them for half the price at Harry's.com? The Harry's starter set is an amazing deal for just $15. You get a razor, moisturizing shave cream, and 3 razor blades. You know, Harry's doesn't like to discount because their prices are already so low. But we've worked out a special offer for you guys. Harry's will give you $5 off your first order with the promo code LEFT. Stop overpaying for a great shave. Go to Harry's.com right now. That's HARRYS.com. Enter the code LEFT at checkout to get that little discount. So by the end of 1987, Aum Shinrikyo boasted a membership of over 1,500 members spread across every major Japanese city. And recruiters were told to believe any and all supernatural stories that a prospective member might tell them. Like they would ask them, it's like, has anything spiritual or paranormal ever happened to you? And when someone would tell them any sort of bullshit story, the recruiters would say, you were most likely a trainee in a previous life. You are innately at a higher level. And if you were to just come and train with the Aum Shinrikyo organization, your supernatural powers will increase and all of your dreams will come true.
And that's also a Scientology trick as well.
Yeah, I mean, what else did they have going on? If I'm in Japan, it's the 1980s, I got nothing happening, why wouldn't I go join this cult?
I don't know. I mean,
Seems like a hell of a time.
yeah, do you have a minimum amount of $700?
I can't do it this week. You know what? I was thinking about it, but I'll wait to levitate next year.
Also, one of his head trainers was a boy that basically grew up within Aum Shinrikyo. His name is Yoshihiro Inoue. And he was 18 by the time it came to he became a trainer, became one of the inner circle very, very quickly. And they said that he had this ability that he'd walk in rooms and light bulbs would explode and like lights would go, all this weird shit. And he was known as like the boy that was like the poster child of being like, you too can be like me. As you see, I sit above this chair. Oh no, certainly not sitting on toothpicks. I am. I am levitating.
Because he walked into a room and threw a bunch of pennies at the ceiling and popped all the lights out.
Now, like I said, the minimum amount to join the cult was $700, with larger donations coming with gifts such as personal photo sessions with Asahara or private lessons from their leading disciples. The highest level, set at $2,000, got members 2 gallons of Shoko Asahara's dirty bathwater.
If you I want you to right now to stop the podcast and look up a picture of Shoko Asahara.
Yes.
This man's feet in the water that you are going to be sucking down, and you have to go, oh, thank you. Strands of his long, dank hair.
Well, you could do whatever you wanted with it. You didn't have to drink it.
You had to drink it. That's what he said. In the end, that's what they insinuated. They're like, oh, you could just keep this around, but if you drink it, sometimes it gives you a boner.
I gotta give him credit for just having the ego to be like, they will buy my bathwater.
And they did.
For $2,000.
And by the way, if you would like to receive your very own bone fragment from my family's ranch, go to patreon.com/lastpodcast on the
I'm
left.
also
Please
gonna
give
start,
most generous.
I'm going to start collecting the shower water that drips from my stomach. So that'll be about 5K an ounce.
Oh, Kissel. There's no limit to the money I'd spend for just the thimbleful of your belly drippings.
You're going to get it.
Now, of course, the entrance fees were only the beginning. The early moneymaker for the cult came in the form of so-called initiations, the first of which was called the blood initiation. All of which came with a bump to the initiate's quote-unquote spiritual level.
Which is good. It's appealing to nerds. It's points.
Yeah. So for $7,000, as many as 30 people at a time would participate in a mass ritual in which they would all drink 3 spoonfuls of what was supposedly Shoko Asahara's blood from a wine glass. And that blood was supposed to give them, quote-unquote, magical properties.
You can throw up at any time.
Yeah.
Yeah, they never actually said what the magical properties were. Of course, that's how you do these things, that you stay vague with all of it.
We saw a TV appearance, I sent it to you on YouTube, of Shoko Asahara explaining how he can transfer energy into a woman and how it gives you spiritual powers and how spiritual powers are the meaning of life. He would say sentences like that make no sense like all the time.
Yeah.
And so what he did was this woman lay down on the ground, he's on the news, and he was just like, I'll show you what I can do. He took his thumb, put it on her forehead, and she just went, oi, 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 oi,
Yeah.
like in a porno film.
Oh, I
and
see.
just jiggled her bits a little bit, and they didn't blur any of it out, which thankfully I didn't feel like a pervert after watching it, as I feel every time I watch an Asian porno. And she kind of just flipped around on the ground and then popped up, and the TV announcer was like, so how do you feel? And she's like, I feel good.
Yeah, it was just like the laying of hands. Like if you've ever been to a Foursquare or Pentecostal church or anything like that, it's just like when they lay hands on people and they start crying and speaking in tongues.
Yeah.
It's all the same bullshit.
And the Catholic Church just got too large to use real blood at their for communion, so they had to switch it up to wine.
It doesn't travel well.
And this blood initiation, it was only the first of the 20 initiations the cult offered. The holy hair initiation involved drinking tea brewed with Asahara's hair. And Miracle Pond was, again, Asahara's used bathwater, and that was sold for up to $800 a quart.
I gotta give this guy credit. He is his own business.
Yeah.
He's just farming his body.
Yes.
He takes his hair, he uses his bath
No
water.
collateral.
There is no product.
No overhead here.
He's not making anything.
What's really interesting too is that one of his initiations. So we would do again in order to get to this inner circle. You had to have the only way you could get true enlightenment was one-on-one with the guru.
Yeah.
And so you could spend something like $8,000 to go and hang with him, and you have this like what you did not know was an LSD initiation where you would sit and share a cup of tea with Shoko, and he would hand you a cup of tea, and he's just like, "I'm gonna take you on a trip you've never even imagined." She's like, "What?" He begins to play Steppenwolf, but like, yeah, but literally the tea was laced with LSD. They had no idea what they were drinking. They took it, and all of a sudden, like one guy was saying about how my hands turned into rubber balls. I became incredibly confused, but I was filled with the guru's energy because the guru was just sitting there, literally being like, "Yeah, man, don't worry, man. Let your anxiety go, bro. No, don't worry, man. Dude, roll with it. Ride with it, dude. Yeah, all colors have reasons."
That's true.
Yeah, and he'd put his hands on their face, and he would stare directly into their eyes, which is that still same like cult technique where, that worldview is narrowing. You're tripping balls and you're staring at this chubby man for an hour, 2 hours.
That's how I got Naddle.
Yeah.
Now, the entire model of this cult, this was a brilliant move on Asahara's part. The entire thing was modeled after the Japanese school system. The constant initiations replaced the constant exams, the levels of enlightenment replaced grades, and most importantly, the all-knowing, all-powerful teacher was replaced by Asahara himself. Because the number one rule in Japanese schools is never question the teacher. Ever. Never think critically about anything he says or anything that you're taught. It's a complete and total like rote memorization educational system. The school year lasts 240 days, a full third longer than America's school year. Every night is spent doing homework. It's just constant work. And Asahara modeled his entire cult on that.
And that's why they got tinier phones than we do.
Yep.
All that work put in. And also, reason why we got a little thing called Unit 731.
Think about it.
Yeah, and even though Aum Shinrikyo, they never got more than 24 Americans to believe in their bullshit.
Of course not. Because we're forthright.
We're lazy. That's why. They're like, how much education will it take?
George Washington crossed the Delaware. He didn't follow a chubby man into a stinky room.
No. Before you get all fucking high and mighty on this bullshit about how much more clever we are.
Oh, the cleverest.
Yeah.
No, the only difference between American cults and Japanese cults are the religions that they base themselves on.
Right.
Like Scientology excluded, most cults are hodgepodges of different religions and belief systems that are cobbled together into something that appears new on the surface. It's the answer that, these people that are lost, they're frustrating, a lot of times they're grieving, they hear this answer. It's somewhat familiar. It's got somewhat of a structure that they're used to, and they think that it's going to give their life meaning. But it's it's the same old bullshit as always.
It's like how Hollywood producers put together network sitcoms. It's a little something for everybody.
Yeah, it's a little something for everybody, and it's all familiar. And
but that's how you do. But that's literally how you grow your base. At this point, what he knows is that what you need at this point is numbers. In order for Aum Shinrikyo to have any sort of impact, you need as big of a group as possible. So you toss in all the elements, and eventually you're going to see he starts putting anime, fully putting on sci-fi shit in there in order for people to like get attracted to it and be like, I want to be a member of Starfleet. And it's the truth. We're just saying, I want to be in Starfleet.
Yeah.
I'd be the class clown. But sadly, the class clown's never allowed on the Enterprise.
No, he doesn't get that posting. What are you talking about?
Oh, but you got to keep the what about the mentality?
Oh, put him on the Pegasus.
I want to be the person who says, Sir, I don't think we should. That'd be kind of fun.
Now, we all know that no good doomsday cult is complete without a compound. And Aum Shinrikyo began construction on theirs in 1988 in the foothills of Mount Fuji outside of Tokyo.
And unlike Hitler, he had the balls to build his above ground. Or lack of common sense.
Lack of common sense. Yeah, it started off as just a ramshackle collection of windowless warehouses, wooden shacks, prefab trailers surrounded by 10-foot walls, and the place was fucking filthy. It was constantly infested with roaches because Asahara said to kill the roaches would be to accrue bad karma.
Well, that's a part of their isolationism, though. So that's what he said. Is basically they also no bathing.
Yeah,
that's true. No personal maintenance. It was like a lot of. It was pretty rank in there.
It sounds
pretty
about
live
right, yeah.
in there.
Yeah.
It was like the fucking I don't know, like a Mumbai playground in there.
And in another master stroke of profit, Asahara charged $2,000 for week-long meditation seminars in which participants were made to sleep on dirt floors and were served only one meal of boiled vegetables a day.
Shoko rations.
Not
That's
bad.
what they called them.
Yeah, they either called them Shoko rations or Aum food.
Boiled vegetables, that's not bad. That's good.
Technically, it's very healthy.
Yeah,
Technically, but one meal of boiled vegetables a day? Are
I'll
you
go
going
for 3. I want 3 meals of boiled vegetables, but the boiled vegetables themselves, that's not terrible.
It's not terrible. Now, while casual Aum Shinrikyo followers could get away with giving only a few $1,000s of their cash, the priesthood was required to give the cult every single asset that they had, which ensured the faithful that they had absolutely nowhere to go. They were locked in, man.
Yeah.
They cut off all ties with their family. They give Aum Shinrikyo, they give them all of their assets. They said even down to postage stamps they gave to the cult.
There's a lot of doubles in there. There must just be a room full of lamps and chairs and couches. I mean, doesn't everyone kind of have the same thing?
They liquidate it. They
Waste
sell it
that
on
just
one.
the
sell it off.
Yeah,
There's
they
like
would
an
sell.
Amazon or
Yeah,
something.
they're not keeping the pinball machines.
Oh, okay.
Man, I would have been so upset if I had a whole line of vintage pinball machines and I was just being like, well, I guess you could sell the King Khan one, but that took me like 3 months to get on eBay. And I just, let me just kiss it one last time.
Yeah.
No. Hideki, I need you to listen to me most forthright. All right? Listen to young Sapien here, how I changed his life. Oh, I can't see, but I have shoes now.
That's nice.
Now, Asahara also began using other classic mind control techniques. Like Henry said earlier, he limited adherence to a twice daily diet of unprocessed rice, seaweed, tofu, or, again, Aum food. It was just a vegetable stew.
No sleep, physical labor.
Yeah.
They were kept awake for hours at night.
It was 5 hours a night maximum.
Yeah, and that's how you break somebody's personality down, is that you make them literally so tired and weak that they're willing to have their life be taken over. And also, this was based off a thing called guru-led yoga. This is a thing that has been around for a long time. They are used to the guru lifestyle. That's the other thing I think that's different from the East than the West, is that here it's like, American and like our mentality is this like, we're individuals. I'm the freest boy who's ever been. I got a flag. I got a derringer.
Prison industrial complex. Think about it.
Yeah, it's like all of this shit. But in the East, they already have kind of a built-in world where they're used to having like a guy that they talk to, like a sensei.
Right.
Yeah, absolutely. And the other thing that they did to really give them a literal hive mentality is they built pretty much a honeycomb of tiny plywood boxes stacked on each other that these people would sleep in. So they were kept in these tiny confined spaces. They were sleeping 5 hours a night maximum, and that was the drones. Those are the people on the ground doing all of the bullshit work. The priesthood, they got even less. They only got 3 hours of sleep a night. And then there were the beatings. The smallest act of disobedience resulted in what Asahara called karma disposal, which was an on-the-spot dumping of spiritual baggage achieved through beating the victim with wooden sticks.
It was a concept called drop karma that he would call, which is the bad karma you came in with. And everybody in the group had bad karma except for Shoko. And so what he would do is this this thing called forced karmic removal, where he would beat them in order to make them good again.
Yeah.
Why not?
You see, and they would do things where they'd hang them upside down for hours, and they would dip their heads in cold water, and they'd spank them a bunch. And some of these men, it was very erotic.
Yeah, it sounds actually kind of hot.
Yeah, but for the rest of them, they were pretty upset.
Well, you look at what Johnny Cash's father did to him, very similar, and he turned out to be a great musician.
He did.
Well, pretty talented musician.
Weren't you beaten by your father?
I turned into a great podcaster
at
and
him.
overall entertainer.
Look, he's got a beautiful smile.
Yeah.
I'd say there's a standard 2 shadows behind his eyes,
Not
but
bad.
not anything too big.
No, you can watch me on the Netflix special, The Characters. My lines were cut, but you can see my
I
face.
kept you in it. Another thing that they did too, which I found this is a concept I really liked from Destroying the World to Save It, was this concept called loading of the language, which you would do this for Aum. They would use truth versus defilement, and they would talk about how within the group, it's how you basically create megalomania within a group, which is this basically being like, we're better than everybody else.
Yeah.
So while all this is going on, he's telling you, we are the truth. Everybody else is riddled with defilement. When I beat you, when I punish you, I am squeezing the defilement out of your toes, my little boys.
Right.
And that everybody else and I'm putting truth into you.
Yeah. And it was also a very twisted version of karma. Like, it was pretty much the opposite of karma, is that he
was making shit up.
He was making shit up, but he flipped karma completely, where he would say that causing pain to others would actually accrue you good karma. Like, he would tell both the people that were being beat and the people doing the beating that they were accruing good karma because they were bringing themselves closer to enlightenment.
And it's what he'd eventually use to validate the terrorist attack in 1985. It's a concept called POA.
Yeah.
It's from a fringe version of Buddhism called Vajrayana. I don't know if that's how you pronounce it.
I don't think it is. I've done it.
But I'd order it with pork. You know what I'm saying?
I got it. I get it, yeah.
But in esoteric Buddhism, POA is a spiritual exercise transformed when one is dying, sometimes with the aid of a guru, a transference of consciousness from the bodily earth plane to the after-death plane that enables one to achieve a higher realm in the next rebirth or even passage to the Pure Land, the step prior to Nirvana, the waiting room for Nirvana.
Yeah.
And so he took that concept and flipped it and said, well, what you got to do is it's the opposite. It's not like helping someone when they're dying. It's make them die fast.
Yeah.
Hurt them. If you hurt them with good in your heart, you're doing good for them.
Yeah, and you're keeping them from going down on the wheel of karma. You're keeping them from going to hell. You're actually ascending them. It's a brilliant rationalization. It really is. Now, serious offenders, the ones that broke the rules the most at the Aum Shinrikyo compound, they were locked away in tiny rooms for days on end, with only a television playing a tape of Asahara speaking at deafening volume to keep them company. And this punishment had no age limit, because one thing, I don't know if we've made this clear here, but this compound was also full of children.
Because he'd take whole families.
Yeah, he'd take whole families. One 10-year-old boy said that he was locked in this room for days.
And what's also very convenient that he'd separate the men from the women, and the women were not allowed to sleep with what used to be their husbands anymore. But Shoko, for some reason, I guess it must have come to him in a vision, said that he could fuck all of them that he wanted in order to make more of them.
Now, it's definitely easy to assume that these people, just a bunch of gullible idiots, right? While they were all definitely gullible, many of the rank and file were actually some of the most brilliant scientific minds in Japan. They were engineers, computer scientists, biologists,
We stole people.
doctors.
He stole people from the Japanese space program.
Yeah, I mean, he was really bringing in these absolutely brilliant minds. But the one thing about him, though, they were book smart. They were all
exactly.
book smart nerds.
Look at Ben Carson. He's a neuroscientist, and the man he's borderline, he needs special ed treatment.
That's a problem. It's just like, as much as, because what does he really need? Technically, he needs a whole clan of pickpocketing orphans that are willing
That's
to.
what I want. Yeah.
That's what you want.
I want the Foot Clan.
But the problem is the Foot Clan is hard to organize.
Yeah,
because they don't listen to rules.
And they're not going into the small room again.
Now, these are book smart nerds. These are, more importantly, sci-fi nerds. They're anime nerds, manga nerds. Like, these are fantasy nerds. And that's where The Foundation comes in. And The Foundation is a 6-part sci-fi book series by Isaac Asimov, published in 1951. The basic plot is that a brilliant mathematician predicts the ruin of civilization, but the galactic government fails to heed his warnings. So the protagonist gathers the best minds of his time to save humanity from itself. And once that plot line was added to the religious mix that he already had going on, Aum Shinrikyo's apocalyptic vision was finally complete.
And another, the animated television series, actually also The Voyage of the Space Battleship Yamato, about a massive spaceship named after a huge Imperial Navy battleship that in the last days of World War II made an essentially suicidal foray against the American fleet. Now in this show, this is also a thing that he started building into their entire storyline, is that the show is set in the year 2199 when the Earth, already inundated with radiation pollution in the wake of a nuclear holocaust, we did that, is being bombarded by meteors and attacked by evil aliens from the mysterious planet Gamilus. Earth's only hope is for the Yamato and its crew to venture into space to obtain a Cosmo Cleaner, a technological wonder device to counter nuclear pollution. And he basically said, we're on Yamato.
Yeah.
This is
So
Yamato.
he's got it all. So he's got some nationalism tied in there as well.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
Because if you look at Japanese pop culture and Japanese, the comic books and the manga and all of the television was still reeling from what we did to them.
Oh, they were still upset about that?
But it's interesting is that they didn't get so much upset as they got like shamed.
Yeah.
They were beaten.
Right.
They were a beaten nation, and so they infused it into all of their pop culture. And so you're basically watching a bunch of people like, this is technically the most American, like Shoko Asahara is like an American in Japan who shows up being like, we will get revenge. And the way we'll do that is by wearing special spacesuits, and I'll be fucking all the women, but you guys are going to make some chemical warfare agents.
Right.
Yeah. And so from, of course, like the anime that Henry talked about and from The Foundation and all this stuff, like he finally had the Harumageddon blueprint. He finally had the plan. He finally had what he was going to tell people. He said, listen, Harumageddon is happening sooner rather than later, and only you, only Aum Shinrikyo will rise from the ashes of nuclear destruction.
Also, I've seen Yamato, and it's very boring. Just so you know, I'm just going to put that out there. And I also have read all of the Foundation books, and they're also a little dry.
yeah. Well, Isaac Asimov's a little dry.
Read Philip K. Dick. I like Asimov. Asimov's short stories are better than his full-time books, but that's me. Read J.G. Ballard if you want something really interesting.
Now, as soon as scientists were established as the ruling class in Aum Shinrikyo, light human experimentation would not be far behind.
Light, just dabble, just get a little bit of a dabble.
Now, their first project was a device called the Perfect Salvation Initiation, or PSI for short. Now, the PSI was a skull cap that, every few minutes, sent a 6-bolt shock to the brain of the person wearing it. And by the way, you'll be happy to know that the ones that the children wore, they only got 3 volts.
I'm not happy.
Yeah. The Mormons are still doing this at Brigham Young to gay conversion therapy.
It doesn't do anything.
No.
Why do we think this shit does stuff?
Yeah.
No idea.
Electricity is not good for the brain.
No.
And it was said that these shocks synchronized the cultist brain waves with that of Shoko Asahara's and would induce the, quote, blissful meditative state that the master himself feels every second.
No, the reason why he feels a blissful meditative state is because he's fucking ripped up on LSD 24/7.
And he's sitting in a bathtub, and he's just like, I'm sitting in gold. He's like Scrooge McDuck when he swims through his pennies. He's literally sitting in money.
He's surrounded by money, getting blown all the time. He has a fleet of scientists that are building a spaceship for him.
Yeah. You know what? I think I'm going to start cultivating my ass hair.
Now, this stupid fucking skull cap, which was just pretty much a portable...
It was a flappy hat. It wasn't even a hard helmet.
No.
It wasn't even a Daft Punk cool helmet. It was a flappy thing.
Yeah, it was a flappy thing, like covered in electrodes. It would be the cult's #1 moneymaker. Now, full-time monks who'd already given up their entire lives to the cult, they got theirs for free. Naturally.
Nice.
Yeah,
they
very
got them
nice.
for free. But the lower-ranking members, they had to rent the hats for $7,000 a month.
Rent it.
Rent
You
it.
don't even buy it.
No, but if you wanted to buy it outright, $70,000.
Wealthy were his followers.
A lot of
they
them were
seem to have
scientists.
unlimited amounts of money.
Well, like I said earlier, Japan was in the middle of an economic boom. Remember in the 80s when we all thought the Japanese were going to eat us alive?
No.
Okay, well,
I remember.
We all thought.
No, we never thought the Japanese were going to eat us alive.
No,
We're
we
allies.
There's a period of time
absolutely
when we
did.
were into the Japanese.
Economically, we were terrified of the Japanese. So there was a ton of disposable income going around Japan at the time.
Also, what we didn't really bring up, but it's the truth. When the emperor fell, at that time, the Japanese, the scientist class was one of the most it was the highest class in the country. It was they were making good cash.
Yeah.
They appreciated their scientists, not like us, where we pay scientists like we pay teachers.
No, I feel terrible for really smart people in this country because it's dumb.
You're not going to make cash.
Yeah, no.
Yeah, and the other thing about the cash and the disposable income, since everybody had all of this cash and it was somewhat new, how Asahara was able to kind of flip that around is he would tell them that the reason why you feel empty inside is because you have all of this wealth. This wealth is giving you nothing.
Yeah.
This wealth is what is making you empty. You're spending all this time working on cash. But for what? When you could be working building 10-foot walls in my shitty compound.
Wow. So he Kurt Cobained them.
Kurt Cobained him.
He got in there and they were like, now that I'm a rock star, I hate it.
Yeah, that's true.
All this
I
money
don't think Kurt Cobain really took any. Well, I guess he took a little bit of money.
Yeah, he took a fair amount.
I'm sad, Courtney. Good. I'm glad you said.
This is the worst you've ever done.
So by 1988, the cult's devotion to Asahara had reached a fever pitch, and there was no greater sin that a member could commit than trying to leave the guru's love. And those who wanted to leave were deemed merely confused and in need of guidance.
Oh, you mean hung upside down and electroshocked and beaten a bunch?
That was their favorite method of guidance.
Ah.
Yeah. They dunk these people's heads in freezing water because they said it would, quote, remove heat from the head, which interfered with their mental acuity.
Yeah.
They killed a guy.
Oh, no
They
way.
did. It wasn't long before this method turned extremely deadly. It's the first death that was on their hands that we know of, at least. This guy, they dunked his head in water over and over again. He developed hypothermia and he died.
Well, you can't just play human popsicle and have everybody live.
Human Popsicle's a fun game when you're in Wisconsin and everyone's used to the cold.
Right, that's true.
No, these are people also you're looking at, they're physically weak.
Yeah.
They're literally underfed, they're underslept, they're literally exhausted.
And they're nerds. They started off as nerds.
they're weak, they already had wedgie calluses. They got weak blood.
Yeah, could be.
Yeah, and so after this guy died, one of his close friends at the compound, he got pissed off.
This is way not cool, yo. So I'm gonna tell somebody about it.
Well, he was one of the mountain wizard holdovers.
Yes.
Yeah, so these guys were already starting to get disillusioned with where this whole cult was going.
So what happened? So they let this guy leave the cult, right, and go talk to the police about what happened there so that they would have a clean slate?
Strangled him with a rope.
Oh.
All right, so the first death, to be fair, was on accident.
It was an accident.
Yeah, like John Wayne Gacy.
No, I think, well...
Yes.
Yeah.
But you know what? So it took 4 members of Aum Shinrikyo to strangle him with a rope. And do you want to know why? Because also they were so physically weak from being eaten is that they couldn't strangle him long enough to kill him.
Jesus.
He was thrashing. They tied him down to a chair. The first guy was one of the most loyal things, be like, I will poa you, because that's what he said. Basically, anytime he wanted to get rid of somebody that was from now on, he'd be like, poa him.
Yeah.
Release his karma. And so they would go in the room, and the first guy was his most loyal servant, try to strangle him, and it was like Pee Wee Herman did, where he was his wrists were too weak to strangle him. And then they all took turns strangling him until finally died from being exhausted by being strangled for too long.
Just get on with it.
Yeah, and after they strangled him, they stuffed the victim's body in a metal drum, covered the body in gasoline, and left it to burn. And Asahara, the entire time this body was burning, Asahara, he kept coming and checking on the status of it. He's like, is it burned yet? Is it burned yet? Understandably paranoid, because they had just committed their very first murder.
Wait, let me do the hand check. If you touch the innermost part of your palm, it means it's at a medium rare. If you get closer to the tip of your thumb, it is weld. Oh, it's just a burning skeleton? Good job, my sapiens.
This reminds me of a family story. May I tell it?
Oh, is this about your German grandfather?
No, it's not. I was fishing with my father in Lake Dubay. Okay, so we caught our first fish, and it was a keeper, so we kept it. We brought it home. He laid it down in the front yard, and it kept on flapping. And my dad was just like, it's not dead. What do I do? So he would go inside for 20 minutes, come out, the fish was still flapping. He's like, what do I do? He felt so bad. You got to beat it and cut its head off. That's what you do. But he felt so bad, so it took about 2 hours. This was a very dramatic Sunday. Going in and out of the house, looking at the bird or the fish, still flapping.
Christ.
We ended up burying the damn thing in the backyard.
What are you talking about?
Swear to God. My father could not kill.
He just killed the fish for nothing?
Yeah, I
He
said,
didn't eat it?
I mean, that's the sad thing. We buried it. Did a little prayer.
Unbelievable.
He was so stressed about the fish that was flapping. You got to cut its head off.
Oh, God.
But he couldn't do
God.
it. He was, trying to be different than his father.
Yeah.
That's true.
So this guy's body, after 10 hours, it finally burned away. So they scooped up the ashes and unceremoniously dumped it underneath a bush. And this man would be the first of dozens to be killed in the name of Aum Supreme Truth.
Yes, and
Oh,
they definitely
goodness.
killed up to 80 just personally. And we're going to get into this.
Oh, yeah.
Amazing. All right, that's the first episode. I have to look up the name again here. It is Shinrikyo.
Yeah.
Pretty good.
You're
Pretty
really
good.
doing good.
Shinrikyo.
See, I've been practicing it all week, so
No,
I
I was
can make sure
practicing
I say
on the.
it.
Yeah, I was on the subway. So I was like,
Aum
Shinrikyo.
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 Aum Shinrikyo.
right, part
thank
one,
God
finished.
this episode's over because I've held so much of this information in my head for the last couple of days. And so again, we're gonna get, there's a really great documentary called 0 Hour. It's a documentary series, and one of these is about them releasing the sarin gas. And so I watched this and was reading about what happens with the sarin gas. So you're gonna get to this. We're gonna get to this point and saying, and it's fucked what sarin does to people. The Nazis made
they
it.
turn them inside out.
Yeah, it's terrible. I was reading all about this, and then I go to get on the train. I'm just like, fuck. Like, literally, I get on the train and be like, God damn it. Like,
Yeah.
I'm
You
just.
forgot your sarin gas.
Yeah,
You couldn't even-
no, I'll
Listen.
never get the true leader's love.
Yeah. Awesome. All right, that's part one.
Yeah,
Cults.
I very much have to thank research assistants on this one. I got to thank Meg Beaverhausen. I got to thank new research assistant April Bennett,
Yes.
who really kicked ass on this one. I also got to thank George out at Midtown Scholar and everyone over at Midtown Scholar for sending us these amazing books.
Yeah,
and
this book
continuing
is
to
the
send us
shit.
amazing books.
But
Yeah.
you got the good one. You got the storybook one. I got the technical one.
Yeah.
And it is driving me nuts.
Yeah,
I
totally.
got notes written in this thing. I've been doing homework.
Yeah.
It's good, though.
Yeah, I get the cult at the end of the world.
Yeah.
Yeah, you got, what's yours called?
Destroying the world to save it.
I have the cult at the end of the world.
Very cool.
Yeah. And also I want to thank Dustin Graham for sending us the amazing old magazines. Like, he sent us an old Life magazine that has a bunch of JFK conspiracy theories in it.
Yeah.
And I also want to thank A Sound of Thunder, the metal band that sent us a couple of copies of their record, The Lesser Key of Solomon.
I love the way the record looks. If it sounds half as
awesome.
good as it looks, I'll love it too.
One minuscule clod from the ranks of slime, condemned to pay for every mortal crime. A soul so loathsome, even
I
demons
love it.
tremble. His name is Misery, depraved, divine.
I'm afraid that's
Awesome.
going to make me shoot up my school.
Well, it will not.
And also thanks Sarah Richard, who sent the lovely drawings that we got in the mail the other day. They were very sweet and nice.
It's very sweet and nice.
Yes,
Yeah,
thank you all for everything.
yeah, absolutely. And
That's good, right?
Jesus Christ.
Thank you all for everything.
You sound scared. Yeah, it just sounds like you say that just before you jump off a building.
His final words were, thank you all for everything.
and if you guys want to help us out, go to patreon.com/lastpodcast on the left to give. We've gotten such an amazing response. And I will go ahead and say this week, thanks to everyone's help, I paid off my credit card debt. 10 years I've been paying off
I
that
should
piece
do
of
that.
shit.
Nah, dude, it's overrated. Marcus is being a nerd.
Well, I heard they were bringing back debtors' prison. So.
Nah, they'll never do that. Debtors are the funnest people. Even if they do, all the debtors are us.
Yeah.
So it'll be a
that's
groovy
true.
good time.
We'll just change we'll just change where the cool people are.
Yeah. And if you want your very own Last Podcast on the Left t-shirt, go to cavecomedyradio.com/merch. And while you're there, go and check out a lot of our other amazing shows.
I was just on the iTunes top 300 list there. We are crushing it.
We're doing
CCR is doing amazing.
Push it.
Pushing it. Thanks so much for supporting Enabling Its Top At. For the political news, follow that Roundtable of Gentlemen. If you want to feel like you're getting drunk with some friends, page 7 for entertainment news.
Yeah, me and Jackie Zabrowski doing page 7.
Why are you
with
doing finger guns
with
or
Molly
finger
Neville.
phasers?
Yeah, I'm doing finger
phasers.
I do finger phasers when I'm happy. Page 7's a wonderful show. It's with Molly Neville and Jackie Zabrowski, and I also do a mental health advice show with Jackie Zabrowski, Sex and Other
And
Human Activities.
what better person to get mental health from than the main researcher for the last podcast on the left?
I know they're mine.
And follow us on Instagram at LP on the left, and me if you give a shit at Dr. Fantasty. And
do
on
Twitter. Yep. Henry loves you. Marcus Parks. I'm at Ben Kissel.
Go check out my music show, Lucky Bone Show, over on mixcloud.com/Marcus Parks.
Keep watching the character special. I guess it's going to be there for the rest of fucking time. I don't know.
Give it 5 stars. Just 5 stars.
Do something.
5
Help
stars.
us. Help us
Yeah.
all. We're trying. We're working. We're working too hard.
Hail yourselves.
Hail Satan.
Heil Geen. Me gust.
Me gusta.
Me
gusta.
You're welcome for liking us.
No, congratulations.
Congratulations for liking us.
For more shows like the one you just listened to, go to cavecomedyradio.com.